Hello and welcome to this short video about the autumn cruise of my Nimbus 365 called Let's Go. Let's Go is based in a marina about 6 kilometers from the Mediterranean, and it's necessary to negotiate 4 bridges to get there. The first bridge is the bridge in the marina, which lifts. And then we have to go under the bridge in the town, which has a height of about 4.2 meters. And before us we see the wonderful town of Aigues-Mortes, built by Saint Louis as a crusader fort. After another few kilometers, it's down to Le Gaulois, where we go under the lift bridge. And from there we go into the actual port area. It's a big fishing port, and in front of us you can see the final bridge, the swing bridge. After that, it's time to go out into the Mediterranean, and for this trip we went about 80 nautical miles in total from Le Gaulois to Port Vendres. Port Vendres has a Madonna that overlooks the entrance, and then as you go into this quite large port, on the starboard side you see some of the village, and in front of you the marina where we moored up. After 3 days in Port Vendres, we decided to visit a place that we'd promised ourselves would go back to Collioure. It's only 1.5 miles from Port Vendres, but it is a fantastic place. Beautiful architecture as you go in, a fort, and no harbour. You have to pick up a buoy. Once we'd moored up, it was time to go into town to explore. The town itself is quite small, but it's very much an area for tourists, with its little shops and its restaurants and its beaches. As night fell, we got an even more spectacular view of the town at dusk. After that, it was time to go off to Canet-en-Roussilon. We did have a brief stop at Saint-Cyprien, but the main aim was to get to Canet before a storm. And as you can see, the weather was already building up, and we needed to maintain a little bit of power to keep steerage as we went through the entrance. Once we were inside, we were met by a capitanery boat who took us to our mooring. By now, the wind had dropped. It was time to plug in, have a cup of tea, relax, and enjoy the calm, literally, before the storm the next day. The guidebook specifically warns against trying this entrance in strong winds, and particularly an onshore gale, as it can be dangerous. That day was pretty miserable, but there was a bright side. We went off to Perpignan, where, like many places, there is a thing called a petit train. We're sitting in the back of the train as we go round this traffic island. If you look to your left, you'll see a motorcyclist. He was in for a bit of a shock. He's going the wrong way round the roundabout to try and cut in front of the petit train. What he doesn't know is the petit train goes round the roundabout a few times. After this, it was time to leave for Port La Nouvelle, not a long distance away, but on the way we passed the Lydia, a cruise liner now on the beach, put there at the start of building Port Baccaris, and it remains there to this day. I assume that because it's already shown on the charts, it doesn't have to show any lights or day signs, but it gave us the chance to revise those anyway, which was an omen for the future. Port La Nouvelle is a busy port, a big port, an industrial port, and we followed a fisher trawler in, and then we saw the big cement works, And then we were meant to find the marina. We did indeed find it, but it was completely and utterly full. As we went further and further up the river and the marina, we suddenly started to see the reason why. There was a dredger. There was a dredger, and it was showing the right day signs, which fortunately we'd revised on the trip there. And in addition, it had this huge 1.5 meter suction pipe coming out of the back of it. It was time to cut our losses, reverse, and go down to a mooring that we'd seen on the way up, which was for tripper boats in the summer. After that, it was a trip to Narbonne plage. This turned out to be one of our favourite places, and we booked in for one night, got one night free, and then booked in for the third night. What made it so nice? Unlike every other place we'd stayed, the buildings on the seafront didn't come right up to the pavement running next to the road. There was lots of space. There was a lovely holiday air about it, and people were just out enjoying themselves. Some people were even taking the dog for a bicycle ride. Not everybody was as lucky that day though, and as you can see, somebody forgot to put their handbrake on. Fortunately, there wasn't a boat in this place, and the car was eventually recovered later that day. A bus ride away is Narbonne, a beautiful city and one that we thoroughly enjoyed visiting. As the winds were blowing and we couldn't go out to sea, we couldn't resist going on a boat trip up the canal to see the houses, through the locks, and we even learnt a whole new manoeuvre of how to turn the boat around. You drive the bow into the bank, and then you put the tiller hard over and drive the boat forward, and hey presto, it turns around. After that, it was time to go to Cap d'Argues, the biggest marina on our trip. You shouldn't go between the island and the mainland, and you should go around the fort. It's actually an old volcano. And then inside and more up next to the Capitainery, the port itself is lovely. Even though we were out of season, there were lots of people around, and there were shops that were open, and it was just a tremendous place to be. Again, we went on the Petit Train, this time to the top of the volcano that overlooks the Cap d'Argues. Once there, we could see where we've been, where we are, and where we were going. In the distance here, you can just see Sète. Leaving port was a bit of an adventure because of the jet skiers. And as you can see, some of them just stop in front of you, and some of them will just turn around in front of you and come roaring back towards you. The next place we wanted to go to was actually to Anker, Marcelin plage. And we used a new app for this called Navily, which I have to say is brilliant. We spent the next day there because we'd decided that it was time to go back home. So we caught the evening bridge and then up the canal as the sun was setting. It was a wonderful experience coming back home to see the town of Aigues-Mortes in this beautiful light. And then back through the lifting bridge into the marina and home.